The dragon is working with a certain type of energy. With the dragon, you're working with adaptation. Can you adapt? Being able to adapt is very important. This is what made Bruce Lee so eminent and so transcendent of a martial artist. Was what he really did was dedicate his time into learning all the styles. And what Bruce Lee was is an amalgamation of all of the different types of kung fu, the different types of martial art, even down to his charisma. Even his charisma and his character on screen was considered a form of martial arts. Because in martial arts, kung fu, the actual art of combat, is really just one aspect of martial arts. You know, not to sound corny or anything, but in the Karate Kid remake with Jackie Chan and Jaden Smith and Taraji Henson, what it was that he said everything kung fu, you know, and it was really, the line was kind of cringe, but I get it. I see the common thread. You know, everything. This was deep into the samurai traditions when they talk about using one saying and extending it to all things. When you're living in true single-mindedness with a unified vision, the results is a lot of focus. It's the difference between sunlight and a laser. With the concentrated light, you could burn away cancer. If the light is just dispersed, all you're going to do is make it warmer. I think it's safe to say right now, in the society that we in and the way it's going, there's some cancers that have to be removed. And you understand, when I say cancers, I'm talking about psyches. If it doesn't serve you, you have to concentrate your light, condense your light. And what does this mean, martial artists? It means not beating around the bush, not scattering your light too broad and thereby decreasing its effectiveness, but concentrating your light, condensing it to a single subject, reducing and deducing your life to a singular purpose. To live simply, to have a simplified life, to live minimalistically, very resourceful. All of these things are also extensions of what can be utilized as martial arts. And even if you do an anagram with martial, you switch the letters around and that becomes marital, right? So it becomes marital. Go from martial arts to marital arts. Because relationships, like I covered in another video, relationships, there's art involved in that, the artistic nature involved in that. Take it from my planetary energy being Venusian, Venus, Aphrodite, the goddess of love, the goddess of beauty, and the custodian of aesthetics. With this comes the perfect fixings, the perfect ingredients for a romantic life. Is the perfect recipe, the perfect soup to be a romanticist. We're talking about martial arts and doing the anagram and turning martial to marital, switching a couple of vowels around. Martial arts is connected to mathematics too. Timing. I want to take that adaptation and put that in there with the music side. Failure to adapt to the times and prevalent styles and prevalent trends is to be a dinosaur of a musician or a recording artist if you're to be one. Could you imagine trying to drop a classic song like shook ones today, when the tempo of the average rap song doesn't even match the 90, 95 tempo or the 105 or the 110 tempo that was characterized of slower hip-hop music from the 90s. Now you got triplets. Everything's at 240 beats per minute and up, 240s. That's what makes those snares triple up like that, speeding up the tempo for all producers. That's just basics, to triple your time and still be able to adapt. And it's rough. It was rough crossing for a lot of veteran artists who wanted to remain in the game. They realized how difficult it was to be on top for a myriad of reasons, one of them being the young, fresher style has a little zest. And when you're older, trying to be a recording artist, you have to do an energetic check-in. You're not just going to step in the booth like you 20. You're not going to do it. You're a man you probably have responsibilities for decades at this point. You done raised a family. You probably got teenage or grown kids. Comparing the older artists to the younger artists, if the older artist wants to stay relevant in the genre, they have to adapt. Music and martial arts sharing the same space. So you're operating in music, you're being relevant in music, you're obeying the triplet flow without being mocking, without being cringing. And not for nothing, but some of the highest selling recording artists of the last era are some of the most ineffective artists in the current era, quiet as kept. And there's no need for me to throw any names out on that either. It's right in your face. Think about who's around and who's not, regardless of the activity levels. You got a lot of veterans from the 90s. They still dropping an album every year, but they're not going to that big stage. Why? One of the reasons is they still want to sound like the 90s. And there's a time and a place to sound like the 90s. But you got to kind of state your position. See, I'm recording and I'm trying to state my position. I want to lead the audience into my intention to go into older eras of music when I do. I'm a rapper from the 90s and I prefer the 90s, but it doesn't mean I'm going to dismiss the current tone. I'm still going to be transcendent as an artist, applying music to the martial art. I'm still going to adapt. I'm still going to respect UFC, MMA. I'm still going to respect the octagon the same way I respect the ring, the same way I respect the dojo. I'm still going to adapt. I'm still going to be flexible, still going to be relevant, still going to be prevalent. And you got to have to humble yourself enough to be ready to learn that kind of stuff. Yeah, if you're an older artist, it's probably going to take more work for you to triple up on your flow and to triple up with the beat. And you talk about whatever you want to talk about. I'm not saying what you are to talk about or not talk about as an artist, but I'm guessing if you're maybe 45, 50, most of your bars probably won't have as much to do with being in the club anymore, I'm guessing. And if that is the case, though, it's going to be intended and implied that you're making a club banger. It's going to be implied that that's what your aim is, more so than you trying to convince your audience that you're there, even though realistically, age-wise, you might be at a different stage in your life. So you're not playing yourself either. Even if you're versatile, even if you're expressing yourself as a fictional writer, you understand? If you're transcendent and your message is strong enough, your fiction will still become fact, because you'll be speaking on real things. You'll be speaking on real subject matter. So there's a lot to be said for that, for being relevant like that and being up to date. It's okay to check out the trends and check out what's going on, the current news, even if you don't follow the trends. It's what's going on in your world. And if you want to reach people in your world, a good way to do that is to have knowledge of what's going on in your world. Don't be afraid to stretch out as a martial artist. You might know Wing Chun, but you might have to learn Hapkido in order to master the certain types of hand movements that will be used in Wing Chun. You're still going to have to adapt. You're still going to have to adapt. You might have started off on your NWA wave and then had to adapt, had to stretch out into the De La Soul energy. And you probably went from the De La Soul energy and had to stretch out into the Migos energy. It's so prevalent. You even had a mockery term added to it. They were calling it mumble rap. Mumble rap. Because of how indecipherable the combination of auto-tune mixed with the vocal rendering of artists produces. If you want to come out clear, get in the habit of maybe weaning back the auto-tune a little bit. Just start turn the needle a little bit to the left. Don't keep the auto-tune all the way on max where it sounds like you're trying to rap underwater. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. You can jazz it up enough to... It's auto-tune, you know what I mean? So if there's notes that you can't hit, or if you want your thing to be more sing-songy, I understand that. That's also the current dominant tone of the genre. And again, we're approaching this like a martial artist. So if you're swinging nunchucks for the first time and you've been working with swords all your life, but now you're dealing with nunchucks. So in your dealings with nunchucks, you understand you got to learn how to swing different. You're gonna have to have a whole different fighting stance, whole different posture. All of this is gonna come into it, and it just messes up the old school rappers so bad when they try to get on some new stuff, and that ain't how they flow, and they ain't really change it up, and they are not accentuating words at certain points in order to get the most out of the beat. Oh, it's tough. It's tough to see. So I'll be reminding myself, like, nah, T, you just spit that triplet. You know, if you got to do the bibbity bop, do the bibbity bop. If you got to do that, you know, Drakey, do that Drakey. You know what I mean? To talk that stuff. If you're an artist, you're an artist. No excuses. So, you know, that in a nutshell. And, you know, it's just a little chop up on martial arts and music. So again, it's Super T Sigma with Sigma Programming. I thank you for your time and attention. You already know reaching is teaching. In the meantime, continue to vibrate high, people, and stay balanced. Peace.